Greeting everyone, this is Ahmad Moradi. Thank you for joining our weekly program. In this particular time, what we are doing is utilizing our digital media room for a different or a unique set of purposes to show you and demonstrate at the same time while we are giving you a lecture on some of the subject again that we feel that it's got value for our clientels and as a part of our ICE strategy where we inform, communicate, and educate our clients, we share different values. So in this particular case, what we have done is I have asked Dr. Warshinsky, Mr. Warshinsky from Cornell EDU, to become our guest. Due to his busy schedule, he recorded a session, and this session I posted it online in our room 222, where we are broadcasting it and giving the users the opportunity to listen in a real time, like what I'm doing, along with the recorded podcasting on a video presentation that it can be shared and broadcasted in real time. So the idea is to take pre-recorded content where it's already prepared and live session. And if there are guests and panelists, then they can talk about it. Talk about our guest, Chester Warshinsky. He brings about 25 years of successful experience in leading innovation and change. Chet Warshinsky has developed organizational capabilities and strengthened the performance of leading companies and universities, including Exxon, Dow Jones, Cornell University, Georgia Tech, Penn State, Carnegie Mellon University, and University of Arizona, and City, State, and System of the New York. So you have a colleague who has a vast amount of experience, and we are honored to have him. And what I'm going to do now, have him to present the video in here as a part of the presentation. So stay tuned.
I'm delighted for this opportunity to speak with you today about successfully developing a strategic plan and implementing a culture change in your organization. I've spent the last 20 years of my career consulting and helping organizations to develop strategic plans and facilitate culture change in both business and industry, healthcare, publishing, and higher education. Estimates are that 3/4 of strategic plans fail to accomplish their objectives. This has some people saying and believing that we should abandon strategic planning and move to something more like a project management methodology where we sprint from task to task. While there's some merit to this idea, strategic planning is really fundamentally the basis for achieving culture change as well as attracting resources. And it's also the foundation on which an organization often builds and grows. And so it's probably a little bit idealistic to think that project management could replace strategic planning. In fact, I think project management is a subset of strategic planning. Through a strategic plan, we identify critical projects that we can employ the sprint methodology. It's also a device for integrating the organization. Physicists tell us that the universe and matter are moving in many different directions, that the universe is expanding and that matter is pushing itself away from each other and moving almost toward chaos. This is what we mean by entropy. The underlying force driving this entropy is often referred to as dark energy. Sadly, too many organizations are filled with dark energy where employees and stakeholders are disengaged and feel disconnected and powerless in terms of making a difference in the performance of the organization. So in the next 30 minutes, what I'd like to do is to review an approach to strategic planning and culture change that I've used that has helped hundreds of organizations and companies to develop strategic plans that actually are implemented and to reshape their culture to become more innovative in terms of coming up with new ideas, but also more innovative in terms of implementing those ideas. I'm going to use a case study from Georgia Institute of Technology, where I worked for several years, to describe and explain the process that I'm going to outline, which resulted actually in national recognition from the President of the United States, who indicated that Georgia Tech was a model for higher education and reality that most organizations are facing. It involves increasing competition, it involves new and emerging technologies, rising costs, limited finite resources, underutilized talent, and consequently unrealized potential. How do we address these current realities and respond to the challenges that we're facing today, which include creating value for customers and stakeholders, for engaging our customers and stakeholders in ongoing communication and dialogue, and involving them in developing strategy, developing expectations for culture. How do we get them involved in a mutual learning process where we can build relationships that are based upon trust and even streamline our operations to improve performance and innovation? The method that has principally been used in most organizations is to start by developing a strategic plan. A strategic plan is simply an information and value-based decision-making process in which the organization looks at its customers and their needs and looks at their expectations and determines what has to be done and what resources will be needed to accomplish its purpose and vision. The process used at Georgia Tech consisted of first organizing some planning groups. We had an executive group, a steering committee, a group of core contributors, and we'll talk about some of those in a moment. But to really start with organizing and engaging, involving everybody in the strategic planning process. Secondly, to conduct an assessment of the internal and the external environment. What's happening in the environment outside and what's happening within the environment inside. That assessment provides important information for identifying opportunities and capabilities. What are our strengths? What are the opportunities that exist in the environment? What are we going to go after? From that information or that data, we can then develop what we call grounded theory of action. Grounded theory of action is simply a theory of action, a set of interrelated propositions based on the experience of the group. And derived from this grounded theory is a set of actions that then we can enact that will implement this plan or implement this theory to be able to bring about change and to embed this practice and this theory in the culture of the organization. So we'll talk about these different steps in the strategic planning process and how they were implemented at Georgia Tech. Start with the organization of the strategic planning process. We tried to include in this process as many people as possible. The president was a seasoned strategic planner who had been involved in developing many strategic plans. The executive vice presidents were also highly involved in this process and served as an executive team to initiate and to implement the strategic planning process. We had a steering committee comprised of a large cross-section of people from all different departments within the university. We formed several subcommittees to really focus on specific areas, including innovation, education, student learning, international and national footprint, and so on. We had a support group that was providing support to the strategic planning committee. And then we had a group of core contributors. Core contributors included all of the leaders of departments across the university. And we also reached out from the university to the community and to our board to bring in advisors and customer groups to the industry experts to help with the strategic planning process. So the process included many stakeholders. The components of the strategic plan are ones that we're all familiar with. You need a mission, what your purpose is, you need to articulate your values, your beliefs, your norms, your standards, your practices, how you're going to operate. You need to be able to develop a vision of the future, which kind of defines and describes your aspirations for the future. You need to have specific goals, both short-term and long-term targets, and you need to have really concrete strategies, proposed actions that are going to reify or translate concepts into the physical reality. So a strategic plan is a vehicle for taking ideas and concepts and putting them into reality. The process, as I mentioned, has to engage stakeholders. So it begins with first engaging stakeholders, but then not only just engaging them and actually doing research, what we call social input, but actually engaging them in analyzing and interpreting the data, and creating these grounded theories that I mentioned, and then being able to enact these grounded theories, actually as you're creating them, you are enacting them, and diffusing them, getting them out to the rest of the organization, and then finally embedding those ideas in the organization structure and the culture. How can we build those practices, for example, that come out of that are successful in the strategic plan? How can we build them into our operations? And how can we build them into some of the methodologies that we use, such as project management? The four converging methods that were used in the strategic planning process involved not only qualitative approaches, but quantitative approaches to looking at the environment, internal and external environment, and to looking at the needs and the responses of customers to a variety of different surveys that were conducted. One of those research methods is what we call appreciative inquiry. Appreciative inquiry is a method to understand the history, culture, and draws from the humanities, the sciences, and the social sciences. The humanities provide the basis for what we call hermeneutics, or really understanding and constructing meaning. The sciences provide modeling and evidence that help us to explain this meaning, and the social sciences help us to develop these networks and to embed this meaning in the organizational structure, the social structure, and the culture of the organization. So let's start with the first method, the method of appreciative inquiry. Appreciative inquiry, as I mentioned, is engaging key stakeholders in developing a baseline of the strengths and assets of the organization. This information that is gained through surveys, through interviews, through focus groups, identifies key factors that people believe really constitute excellence in the organization and are really important for moving forward. So appreciative inquiry is a strength-based approach that identifies the key strengths and assets on which the organization can build and leverage in a strategic plan to really transform or to create the future. Some of the questions that we ask in appreciative inquiry include, what are some big experiences that you've had in this organization? What do you value most? What do you value most in terms of the nature of your work, the organization, what the organization provides? What are some of the core factors that give life to the organization? How can we really enhance the vitality, the health, and the well-being of people in the organization? So through asking questions like that, we generate important data that can be used to leverage experience. Now, when you start to ask people these questions, you're not always going to get positive responses. In many cases, you're going to find out what people dislike as much as what they like, because they're going to tell you whether you like it or not. And so what you're going to get, though, is you're going to get ideas that people really want to hold on to and want to use as they move forward. And you're going to get some basis of agreement that you can build on. You can take note, certainly, of the things that people are concerned with. For example, the comment, I've never experienced anything enriching or energizing. Obviously, you want to dig into that a little bit more to find out, is that an individual problem, or is it an organizational problem, or what can you do to address that particular kind of issue or problem? The second method that is used is what we call semiotics, and that's how do we construct meaning. Charles Sanders Peirce, the father of American pragmatism, identified what is called a triadic model to try to really look at language, spoken as well as written language, and to understand, what are the key objects that are being discussed, what are the signifiers, the words, the language that's being used to discuss those objects, and then what are the effects that people have. So through generating lists of signifiers about innovation as an object, about the organization, about senior management, leadership, we're able to identify what are some of the things that people would like to see, what effects would they like to see, and what are possibly some of the causal factors related to those effects. So the method of semiotics gives us some very important information from which we can develop the grounded theory of action. In this diagram, based on some data, we see that people were concerned with So, from this information, we're able to then start to make some inferences and develop our grounded theory.
This is particularly important when we are talking about factors that you're observing, such as the indication on that data that the number one observation was collaboration. So these are pointers that we like to make about the fact that without collaboration, communication, and broadcasting capabilities, this kind of capabilities will become mitigated. And the employees and organizations as a whole will suffer dramatically. So back to presentation.
Now, grounded theories of action are based on four different kinds of inferences. They're based upon inferences that result from abduction. And these are guesses, basically, or feelings or intuition that a person may have about a situation and what is important and what are some of the strengths. But they're also based on induction, which is data. And what does the data imply? What does the data say? Another type of inference, an important type of inference, which is often overlooked in strategic planning, is what we call retroduction. And retroduction is how do we reformulate these ideas based on the experience of a group of people. So if you get a group of people together to construct a model or a theory, what you're basically doing is finding out what the past experience has been, what kind of theories or models have guided them in the past, what are the important variables.
One of the key factor in here that I came from background on studies on PhDs on artificial intelligence is the same theories that you're talking about. The GTA is very adaptive for building AI engines. Some of the variables that you see in here to be able to construct a model or a theory or retroduction or build in derivative strategy with the hypothesis and variables, these are all becomes part of this process. Just wanted to share that with you.
They think may cause the current situation, or may change the current situation, or improve the current situation. So what are the causes and the effects? And taking that information and developing hypotheses and strategies, using if-then propositions. If we communicate more effectively, we're going to understand each other, we're going to be able to coordinate our action and behavior, work together more effectively, for example. And then from these grounded theories, we're deriving the strategies and actions through deduction that give us kind of an action plan then to move forward based on this understanding of this model that we create. And the last step, we create representative narratives and images to kind of elaborate and to embellish upon the model and to identify some images and representations and graphics that can actually reinforce the whole process. In the strategic planning process at Georgia Tech, we asked everybody to read a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. The grounded theory in Outliers, according to Gladwell, consists of three major factors: circumstance, what's changing, what's happening in the environment that you're working in or that you're operating in, what's the economy doing, what's happening with the political stance of people, what are the competencies that people have, what are the skills, the knowledge, the attributes that they bring to the table, and then what is the culture, what do we expect within the organization. And what Gladwell found was that circumstance, competency, and culture results in outliers, people, organizations who are exceptional, that stand above and beyond the norm. And that book resonated very strongly with the stakeholders at Georgia Tech because they wanted to see Georgia Tech as an outlier. And so that provided a basis of meaning, that model provided a basis from which we could work toward developing a strategic plan. The third method is, once you have that model, to use the scientific method to validate that model. So you create a research design, you look at the model, or you break it down into its hypotheses, look at this grounded theory of action, you make predictions, you test those predictions, you evaluate your findings, you revise the model, and then you enact it, you communicate, you test it in real life. And that's essentially what science does. It's a learning and adjustment process that we use to really establish proof of concept. So there's this grounded theory of actually really something that is going to work and build on it. The cause and effect propositions are part of this model of value. The application of the scientific method involves a mixed methods approach, using different qualitative as well as quantitative methods, surveys, interviews, focus groups, and to gather information and data from stakeholders and from participants in the process. One of the vehicles that was used to really use action research and these particular methods to develop this grounded theory of action was through workshops and retreats, getting a group of people together and engaging them and interviewing each other, gathering information, using that information to develop a grounded theory, and then being able to evaluate and communicate the results. And we're going to look at how that was done in a workshop in just a few minutes. But I'm going to just touch on the fourth method before we do that. The fourth method is actor network theory. It's based on actor network theory, which involves the constitution of human and technological networks, in which, as I mentioned, both people as well as other entities, resources, facilities, technologies, artifacts assume an identity and are engaged in interaction and construct some common definitions and meanings that we can build on. Through this process, we're also able to establish relationships and allies and support for this grounded theory and helping to even diffuse this grounded theory. And we're taking action to grow this network of people and things to facilitate change. It's not individuals that facilitate change or create the change in the world. It's the networks of people and things that actually result and facilitate change. So actor network is a really important model of social change or transformation. And in this process, we map the network. We engage others in dialogue and negotiation. We find out their interests and needs and we negotiate. We ascribe and enact translator roles. We get people to translate, to talk to other people. And we embed the grounded theory of action in the social structure and culture and even in the environment or the ecosystem of the organization. Now, the overarching framework within which these four different methods of social inquiry take place is what we call action research. Some people will talk about this as a future search process. It's a way of searching the future and trying to actually design the future. By the way, that was the name of the strategic plan that we had developed. And it begins with data collection. And if we could talk about appreciative inquiry, building strengths, data analysis, and that's breaking information down into its causal and effect components and looking at mediated moderate variables. While we identify or create a grounded theory of action based upon the experiences and inferences that people make, and we develop an action plan for enacting and transforming the environment and transforming our organization. So the strategic planning process or the action planning process is driven by questions. What are or should be the contributions of the organization? What are our core values in pursuing these contributions? What are the strengths and assets in making these contributions? Well, what are the best opportunities for improvement? Based on our strengths and opportunities, what should we aspire to? And then what should be the strategies, initiatives, programs, or actions that we should take to actually make it happen? We ask these questions in a workshop, and we engage the group through structured interviews and collecting data from each other. And then in small groups, really looking at the data, analyzing it, and constructing this grounded, coding it in terms of what's highly representative groups, somewhat representative and unique, and developing this grounded theory of action. At the same time, we're also developing relationships, and we're developing these active networks. So through these workshops, we're able to map the network, invite the right people to the table, and get them to analyze these networks and analyze the data, and then to increase the connections of the network to foster change. So I'd like to take a minute or two to share with you the results or the outcomes of this process. The mission that was developed was based on the motto of Georgia Tech, which goes back to its founding. It was process basically to achieve through effectiveness and innovation in teaching, learning, and research, and entrepreneurship, advances in technology, and to improve the human condition in the United States and around the world. So that was the thrust of the mission statement, the reason that Georgia Tech exists, to innovate in teaching, learning, and research to really make a difference in improving the human condition. The values and operating principles underlying this mission statement: integrity, excellence, impact, innovation, entrepreneurship, leadership, and community. These values are really how we're going to work together. And we had a culture change initiative that looked at these values and that looked at what we need to do to operationalize these values. And we went forward to look at how to build these values into the social structure and the culture of the organization. But that's a topic for another conversation. The vision that was developed was that Georgia Tech would become a leader in major technological social policy decisions, and that people would all be wondering, our stakeholders, but also other people, our competitors even, would be wondering, what does Georgia Tech think? And that would be a common question that people would ask. What does Georgia Tech think? And it would be based upon, that vision would be based upon the goals and the strategies of the organization, to be a highly respected, technology-focused institution, to have excellence in scholarship, to expand our global footprint, to be so our graduates would lead as leaders and entrepreneurs to make a difference in the world, and that we have institutional effectiveness within the organization. And again, this is all based on this grounded theory of action. If we sustain our cultural legacy of diversity, vigor, intellectual rigor, collegiality, multidisciplinary problem-solving, leadership, then we'll have a reputation in research and scholarship. If we enrich the student experience so that the students have innovative growth opportunities, using new learning technology that we will respect. If we redesign the curriculum, students will be more purposeful and relevant to society, and our outcomes will be more relevant. We create a culture of innovation in which people expect to work together and work through this process that I'm describing to really bring about change through research. We can create new knowledge and become more innovative and be leaders in innovation. And we can streamline our best practices and reduce costs to facilitate our teaching, our research, and our learning. The implementation process that was used was to establish this executive team, steering committee, and then to break down into projects. And so the projects that we looked at were, how can we prepare our students for global leadership? How can we become the innovative institute? Let's create an experimental college where students can create their own curriculum. What kind of collaborative partnerships do we need to develop? Maybe we need to provide an educational guarantee. How can we become a best practice institution? So the plan helped Georgia Tech define and design its future as a place where ideas converge and leaders emerge, where solutions are created. With tomorrow's technology, where contributors are welcome and contributions are valued. So one Georgia Tech, one standard of excellence, the Georgia Tech way, became the new motto for Georgia Tech. All of these findings are indicated in the plan. You can access the plan and all the other tools, communication tools that are associated with that plan at the Georgia Tech website. But underlying this process was this action research systems approach, which involved inquiring, analyzing, constructing, and acting, and embedding, taking a strategic plan to a process to shaping the culture using appreciative inquiry, semiotics, the scientific method, and the active network theory, and doing this roughly within a year's period. The strategic plan change matrix breaks down these different methods into specific activities and actions, which work across horizontally as well as work vertically up and down in terms of the actions that could be taken by project teams to bring this about and to facilitate culture change. And the potential benefits to the organization are many. It can facilitate learning and relationships, create new knowledge, eliminate the knowledge gap, align the culture and the technology, the structure, and the process. One of the reasons many strategic plans fail is that you develop a plan, but then you fail structure of the organization, the culture of the organization to support that plan. And to build capacity and strengthen leadership and promote adaptability to improve performance. The lessons that we learn, organizational strengths are underutilized. Through networking, we can tap into the knowledge and experience. We can motivate people, we can enhance learning, we can create culture change that results in a stronger organization, a more sustainable organization, a more innovative organization. So the final musing, and this is a quote from Mark Buber, and I think it kind of sums up what consulting is all about, as well as what much of technology is all about today. Is a divine spark lives in everything and being, but each spark is enclosed by an isolated shell. We're closed off from each other, we're disconnected, we're not engaged, we're not integrated. And only we can liberate this through our communication, through having holy converses, as Buber said, with each other. The task of every person is to affirm himself and affirm the others, affirm herself and the others, and by this means to transform both the world and individuals and the world. Thomas Merton rather takes this a step further, and it says, we only have access to truth through finding out what other people think, to acknowledging something, affirming something in terms of what they think, appreciating it, as well as for them to appreciate and affirm something in us. And it's through love that we open each other up to each other and break through that shell and find access to truth. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I appreciate this opportunity to present to you and wish you every success in overcoming entropy and dark energy through applying some of the information and the methods that we talked about today. And I'd also like to thank NETSTAIRS and Dr. Maradi for providing this opportunity, facilitating communication and networking, and helping organizations to accomplish your goals. Have a good day, and please contact me if you would like to discuss any of these ideas further.
Well, on behalf of Dr. Wojcicki and Wojcicki Consulting Services, I really want to thank his lecture. I think it's extremely informative. We have been a colleague and a catalyst that we have worked in several matters and subjects, and one of these areas is, again, educating you, our audience, about how we go about our researches, or how we go about our building our strategies, and how do we define those kind of protocols, because as consultants working in different atmosphere, in different industries, in different countries, regions, and GeoIPs, we have learned a great deal of experience where we help our clients both on the technology side when we are building our PTLA for them, or we make them strategic partners, or we building them a white label or branding or enterprise. We do allocate consulting services as a part of this process, where the implementation of real-time communications, collaboration, and broadcasting is really enhances the company. And that's one of the reasons that we are continually to enhance and introduce new solutions. And again, today we want to thank you for listening to our pre-recorded audience, Mr. Wojcicki and myself being the host in this subject, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.